On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank, we jump right into local college football news. We look at OU's latest coronavirus testing numbers, the possibility of moving the season opener up a week, and Joe C's latest comments about a season. We break down the biggest national stories in college football, the Big Ten and Pac-12 announcing they'll only play conference schedules, the latest update on the Big 12, SEC, and ACC, and an interesting recommendation from the Football Oversight Committee. And Football Guys Talkin Basketball, we look at what life is like in the NBA Bubble and give an update on the Oklahoma City Thunder. We give you our winners and losers of the weekend and provide you with the latest update on high school sports in Oklahoma from the OSSAA in Keepin It Local. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Monday, July 13th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by First Fidelity Bank. Now we're recording this on Sunday night, and Teddy, you okay, man? Everything all right? You look tired.
I had a long day. I had a long day of cleaning up my yard. I've got 4 acres, and we had as I know everyone probably did, I don't know, a hurricane, a tornado. I don't know what happened last night, but it destroyed trees all over our yard. We had leaves and limbs and stuff all over the place. And I think 90% of them went directly into the pool. So that was
perfect.
Fun cleanup. So yeah, it was like a full-on 10 hours out in the sun cleaning up the yard today.
Follow-up question from me in the back. Why didn't you just pay someone to do that?
That's a good question. And something I always ask myself, like 2 hours into the ordeal, it's like, this could be something you watch from the lawn chair while someone else does for a few bucks. But I enjoy getting out there as long as you don't overdo it. And I think I overdid it today. I overdid it.
Yeah, you're just too manly for your own good. That is not a problem that I have, because I would have been like, oh yeah, no, we'll just hire someone.
Here's what's funny. I had to take a break at one point and go jump in the swimming pool because I was seriously overheating. So I took a break, and then after that I went back out and started working again. So I'm in a swimsuit only with the chainsaw out in the yard.
What a weird visual.
So I'm sure that was like an interesting sight to see for the neighbors driving by, but I got it all done. I'm done. We're good. Yard is clean.
So yard's clean. You survived what was just some ridiculous weather in Oklahoma this weekend. And how about this, Ted? I went to a wedding this weekend.
How about that?
Church, wedding reception at Gaillardia Country Club, the whole thing. Now, majority of people in the church wearing masks. Masks were required on the dance floor at the wedding reception. Everyone complied. And there was about 4 or 5 instances where I'm jumping around to some Bruno Mars or whatever the hell was being played by the band. The band was fantastic, by the way. And I thought about passing out, but I didn't. I was like, I would get to that point, but it was pretty interesting. It was pretty interesting. We were as safe as we could possibly be. We complied with all the rules and had a lot of fun. And I woke up this morning with no coronavirus symptoms yet, so I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, well, give it 5 days. You need to check in.
Is that what it is?
On Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
Well, I mean, originally they said 7, then 5, but I don't know what the exact incubation period is. But here's what's going to happen. For the rest of this week, anytime you feel strange, you're going to be like, is this allergies? Is this coronavirus? Is this?
Well, I'm probably just not going to leave my house. Full disclosure, I'm just in. Well, I really can't right now because we are moving soon. So we are packing up boxes. I went through my closet today, getting rid of all kinds of stuff. So hopefully this is the last time we ever move, because I'm not sure there's many things on planet Earth that are worse than moving. And my poor
Yeah, the only
wife.
thing worse than moving is moving someone else. That's the only thing worse.
That's a great
I
point.
will say though, there is one good thing about moving. And like you said, you're going through and cleaning stuff out. I hate having a bunch of clutter and junk. And whenever we moved, I essentially said, if my wife didn't say she had to have it, it was going in the dumpster. Everything. I purged everything. So that's the one good thing. You get to get rid of a bunch of junk.
Yeah, I'm getting rid of essentially everything. If it's not Lululemon, it ain't coming with me, basically. So
Are you still hanging on to that Sun Bowl warm up you got for?
No, that stuff is long gone. The 3Xs. Now I do keep the 3Xs around to work out in. I won't lie, because I'm not going to pay for nice workout clothes. Like, I'm just not going to. I'm too cheap for that. But yeah, I'm getting rid of a lot. So that was kind of exciting. It felt good. It felt like I was, letting go of the past and excited for the future, Ted. So it was a lot of fun, and had a lot of fun at the wedding this weekend. Congrats to Sarah Beth and Preston. It was a beautiful wedding. Beautiful wedding.
It almost feels like like one of those forbidden weddings, like they've got to hurry and get it done, like you're not supposed to be getting married at this time.
Well, the father of the bride laid down the law in the speech. He was like, if you come on the dance floor, you wear a mask. And he said it like 3 times. So it was like we were masked up, having a good time. And
I saw you tweet that it's the first time you've ever tried to pick a suit based on the mask you were going to wear or something like that.
Yeah. So I had like one of the blue surgical masks, and it has like an extra filter on the inside. Like, it's pretty intense. And I was like, okay, well, I need to wear some blue to match the mask. And, so I made it work. I feel like I made it look good. But I did have a few beverages at the wedding. And speaking of beverages, Ted, guys, stop acting like you're too manly and just accept it. Hard seltzers are amazing. There's only one hard seltzer that we drink on this podcast, and that is Will and Wiley Hard Seltzer from Coupe Ale Works. It's perfect for any occasion. We drink it by the pool, at the lake, and at the tailgate. It's made in Oklahoma, and it's absolutely delicious. I dare you to try the cherry lime and say it's not incredible. Will and Wiley is customized for the Oklahoma lifestyle. Go find it right now in a store near you, and go follow them on social media at Will and Wiley. All right, Ted, let's get into some local college football news. We've got our latest update from the University of Oklahoma with their coronavirus numbers. They tested 89 players, 0 positives, which is very exciting and great news. They still have 9 active cases on the team and 5 recoveries. Now, I'm not entirely sure what a recovery means. Do you think recovery means they tested positive and now they've tested negative, or is that what we consider recovery?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's I'd have to look it up exactly, but I think you have to be symptom free for X amount of days and test negative. So I'm guessing that's what's happened there.
So that's good. I'm not sure how much these numbers are going to matter if things keep trending the way they're trending, and we will get to all of that, but it was good to see 0 positives. I think that says that what Oklahoma is doing, their protocols, how cautious they're being. I mean, we've talked about it a lot with just how careful they're being with everything. I think this kind of lends to their strategy being solid. I do. I think it probably gives them hope that they can continue doing things that way and control this thing, but who knows? I mean, who really knows?
Yeah. It's anytime they do all this testing, they get the 0 positives back. That's got to feel good, but I got to imagine Lincoln Riley, the staff, Josie, everyone up there, whenever they do a round of testing, that has to come with a massive amount of anxiety, right? Because
Oh
it's
my
like,
gosh.
and especially because, there's asymptomatic people out there. So, like, it would be one thing if you had 10 guys that are coughing and hacking and have all the symptoms. But since there's people that test positive that have absolutely zero symptoms, it's like, you don't know what you're going to get back. So I bet it's pretty nerve wracking.
I bet you do you think they like get in a huddle or is it one of those things where it's like a Grammy and an Oscar, like the results come in like an envelope,
Someone walks in with it.
just like here
Probably
we
so.
go. I mean,
But
who's the
there's probably
bearer of bad news?
a bet. There's got to be like an over and under line in the office, right? 5.5 or something like that.
Oh, for sure. There's no doubt that those coaches are betting on this. You know
So,
those
hey,
guys.
I saw one of the guys sneezing walking down the hallway the other day. So I think that's one positive at least.
For
So
sure. All right, now another big story locally, according to Barry Trammell, OU has petitioned the NCAA to move the opener against Missouri State from September 5th to August 29th. Now, I'm not sure this game even happens. I mean, it's a guess at this point. I mean, it really is, but who knows what Missouri State's testing protocols, their capabilities are going to be compared to OU's. I mean, maybe OU would be willing to pay for their testing if it comes to that. Now, I do like moving it up because Tennessee comes to town on September 12th. And remember, that game is still scheduled to happen. So that gives you a bye week before a big non-conference game that is still scheduled to be played. That all being said, Ted, you and I have talked about this over the weekend, and I am a big fan of your theory when it comes to moving this game up. Would you like to explain how you're a brilliant man to these people?
Well, it's interesting, that it kind of happens at the same time that, there's conferences out there that are not going to play conference game or non-conference games. They've already said that. Well, Oklahoma is moving theirs up. And what that does, by the nature of these off-season rules this year, it lets you start training camp a week earlier if you're playing in week 0 than the teams that are playing on week 1. So, and everything gets moved up a week. Your
enhanced training camp with the walkthroughs. Yeah, everything gets bumped up a week.
Everything gets bumped up a week. So you're on a quicker timetable to start practicing. Now, you start camp a week early and you get in there, and then maybe at some point, preferably after you've practiced for a week, you say, we're not going to play non-conference games. Well, you've already banked that original extra week of training camp in there. So really all you've done is allow yourself some extra practice time. So is that what they're doing? Maybe. I don't know. But I think it would be smart if they were. It's definitely a way where everyone's hurting right now for practice time and to get on the field after missing the spring. So any way you can find an opportunity to get some extra practice time, I think you take it.
Now, with how cautious Oklahoma has been through this entire thing, I'm a little skeptical of that, but I also know Lincoln Riley. And that is a guy that wants to get his guys on the field. And he's talked about publicly how comfortable he is with the quarterbacks, with Mordecai, with Rattler. They've been in the system. Yeah. But Lincoln Riley wants to see those guys on the field. He wants to see some of these guys that are battling for defensive starting positions on the field. And if you can bump up that enhanced training camp start date from July 24th to July 17th, I mean, why not? Because they've already come out and said it's probably going to be the end of July before any decision is made for the Big 12. So July 17th, you've got essentially half the month to get some work in, to get some actual football. Now, that depends on the NCAA granting them this waiver, which I'm not entirely sure I've ever seen this. I think they bumped up, what was it, like Florida State, Miami, or one of
Well,
those
they
games,
moved their game last year
or Florida, Miami, maybe. I don't
to
remember.
Sunday,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that happened pretty late. The way the NCAA works, I feel like there's a petition that's like faxed in by Oklahoma formally to the NCAA, and it like prints out on a printer in some office, like the back corner of an office, and no one ever sees it. And then finally someone's like, oh, this is from Oklahoma, and just signs it and sends it back.
It
And
like
everyone's
goes, it goes to Milton in the basement.
right. And everyone's like huddled around waiting for the NCAA's response to this big petition, and they don't even know where it is. That's just how I feel like the NCAA works.
But I do like the thought of the Sooners using the system to their advantage and maybe stealing some extra practice. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Another brilliant Lehman theory.
Look, here's another interesting thing too. And we saw this whenever they moved their game last year to Sunday. Now that there's no non-conference games from the Pac-12, I don't have the schedule for week 0 in front of me, but I think there was 3 Pac-12 teams that were playing on week 0. I think right now the only other game is like East Carolina and Marshall, and then there's like no premier teams playing at all. So if you move to week 0, and maybe that's going to be the pay-per-view game, I don't know. And there's an opportunity for people to say, hey, Oklahoma's playing. We get to see the Spencer Rattler kid. There's nothing else going on. I'll pay $35, $40 or whatever to see Oklahoma, and it may drive their pay-per-view numbers up pretty big.
Yeah. We all know that OU fans love the pay-per-view game. It's their favorite.
Or, it may get picked up by a network if there's nothing else on.
Yeah, that'd kind of be ideal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because play the pay-per-view game, and
that's the only thing I don't know is because I think there's a contract with Fox that they have to have one pay-per-view game, but
gross.
I mean, I don't know if that's something they can get out of or not. I have no idea.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be all kinds of exceptions to rules this season. Now, Joe Castiglione talked to our boy Toby Rowland on Friday, had a lot to say, and he said that the leadership there at Oklahoma is still listening to the medical experts. Of course, they're constantly gathering information, and it sounds like they're going to wait to the absolute last minute to make a decision about this season. He mentioned the economics and how important those are, for the university, the athletic program, Norman. He understands all of that, but decisions will continue to be driven by the health and wellness of students, student athletes, staff, faculty, all of that. So it seems like that's what's going to determine the decisions they make, Teddy. And I don't really think there's anything else you can say about it, right? We all know that, the money, we've seen the dollar figures, but at the end of the day, it's about people. And it's just, this whole situation, it's starting to get very, very weird in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Joe C. and these athletic directors out there are, if you put truth serum in Joe C. or Lincoln Riley, you may hear them say that, I wish we'd just go out there and play football. But the problem is, with how many people that are under their leadership, they just can't do that. I mean, college football is in a situation that no one else in the country is. I mean, high school football looks like it's going to play, but you don't know there. But, no one's making millions of dollars off high school football. Professionals look like they're going to play, but, they're getting paid and they know the risk involved. So there's nothing there. So college football is like this weird blend of all of that. You've got guys that
they have to pretend that they care about academics, which is rough.
I mean, exactly. I mean, that's the thing though. It's like,
I'm kidding.
But in all this, there are things that they have to contend with that no one else does, and one of the main things that they have to contend with is public perception, and the fact that if they say, let's go play football, there's going to be a tremendous pushback on how irresponsible it is to do that with kids that don't get to share in the rewards, the millions of dollars out there. So it's a tough spot to be in.
Now, T-Row did ask Joe C about the season getting pushed to the spring, and Joe said that the spring season is logistically doable. He said him and Lincoln Riley have talked about it numerous times. Now, of course, he acknowledged the challenges, players leaving for the NFL, health risks of playing 2 seasons so close together, but they have certainly had these conversations. I mean, that's exactly what Joe said. So I know that they've been modeling all kinds of different scenarios. It was interesting to hear him talk about the spring season, because even though we're still holding out hope that this thing gets played in the fall, knowing that they think that the spring is doable, it actually made me feel a little better, because the worst case scenario, right, is there's no season at all. Like there's no season in the fall, there's no season in the spring. Like they just punt on the season. Now, I don't think that is possible for the teams in the Power Five. When you look at the economics of it, it would be, I don't know if catastrophic is too strong of a word, but that's the word I'm going to use. It would be catastrophic. So for him to think and not even really skip a beat and say, oh yeah, the logistics are doable in the spring, that actually made me feel better than him going, well, it doesn't make much sense. It was good to hear him say, yeah, we can do the spring.
Yeah. I mean, can they do it? Sure, they can do it. I just don't know what the ramifications of a spring season are. Obviously, it's better than playing nothing at all, right? Like if you just don't play at all. But my question is, what happened? Okay, let's say here at the end of July, they say we're going to move to a spring season. Well, that's a long time from now. And, these athletic departments and not just Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma's in a better position than about 98% of athletic departments out there. But there's a long time. You got to remember, a lot of these schools, not a lot of them, no one has had any income in their athletic department since like February. Right, the NCAA tournament didn't happen, which is a huge influx of funds for a bunch of schools out there. That didn't happen. We've been paying out money for keeping all these facilities up to date, paying coaching staffs. Everyone on your athletic department's payroll's been getting paid. Well, if you punt to the spring, I mean, my guess is that instantly every single athletic program is furloughed until you get to the spring. And then once you even get to the spring, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the logistics. Can they play a football season? Sure, but can they play a football season and play basketball, men and women, play baseball, play softball, play all the different things that happen during that time in those small amount of venues that they're all sharing, and flying these groups all the way across the country? I think you can play football, but I don't know if you can play football and do all those other things too.
Yeah. It seems like you'd have to, I don't know if regionalizing the schedule for everybody would be the best way to do it. Reduce travel, try to reduce costs, play teams where you can drive. I mean, you can bus. I don't know, but I know they're going to try. I know Oklahoma's going to try, and I've got faith in the leadership there that they'll make it work. I mean, it's extremely complicated, but it seems like they don't really have a choice, right? They have to make it work.
No, I'm with you. I think one of the interesting things is, like, Oklahoma State, for instance. If you play a spring season, if you're Chuba Hubbard or you're Tylan Wallace, would you play?
Hell no.
Right? I mean, so some of those guys aren't going to play. Like, if you're Creed Humphrey, would you play?
Nope.
And I agree with that. But there's a small amount of guys, but it's the superstars, right? Or the guys that don't play. But there's a lot of other guys that feel like, if I'm going to get like seniors, it's like, I have to. I know I feel like I'm maybe a second or a third round draft pick, but I mean, I don't have enough leeway to where I say I'm just not going to play. I mean, right? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
because I hate it, because this is a between your sophomore to junior, if you're a guy that leaves early, or a junior to senior for a guy that's can play in the NFL. This is usually when you make your biggest jump as a player.
for sure. Definitely agree with that. So, I mean, it could come down to some really tough decisions for the best players in all of college football. I mean, that's just, it seems like it could be headed there. I just wonder, with kind of what's happening with the NFL right now. I mean, they don't have a ton of clarity on what's going on. I was talking to Blake Bell about it this weekend. He's like, yeah, they say the 28th, but does it feel like we're going to be there on the 28th? So it seems like the NFL still has a lot of questions to answer to. And you would hope that if the worst case, or not the worst case scenario, but if college football does get pushed to the spring, you would hope that the NFL would adjust somehow to help those kids, to try to help college football, to try to help some of those kids play some games and improve their draft stock, because the NFL wants that. I mean, they want to see more tape from these guys. So it's just going to be so interesting to see how this entire thing plays out. Now, Ted, one thing that Joe Castiglione did talk about was how surprised he was by the Big Ten's decision to cancel all non-conference games, which brings us to our national football news, which is brought to you by Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School. As schools look to reopen in the fall, parents want to provide the best possible educational experience and spiritual development for their children. There's no better place for that than Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School. A 1-to-1 iPad setting makes McGuinness students fully prepared to continue high-level learning from home. A 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio guarantees no student is overlooked. In addition to the athletic programs and clubs, Bishop McGuinness's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. Financial aid is available. For more information, visit bmchs.org. So we all hate the Big Ten. I think we can all agree on that, and it has nothing to do with what they did. I think I'm fine with what they did. So they announced they're going to play conference games only. Fine. I think that we were headed there anyways. We talked about it last episode. But whether they want to say it has to do with travel, or whether they want to say it has to do with knowing that the other schools are using the same testing protocols, whatever they want to say, that's fine. It's fine. It makes sense. But I just don't understand why they didn't tell anybody else. It doesn't make any sense to me, because everybody was blindsided by this, including the other Power 5 commissioners. And these people have been on phone calls and Zoom calls and doing all these things together, trying to work together for months. So for a guy like Joe Castiglione, who's probably the most respected athletic director in college athletics, to be very surprised, for the commissioners of the other Power 5 conferences to be very surprised, for the teams that were supposed to play the Big Ten teams in the upcoming football season to be surprised, that's complete bullshit. I mean, they are supposed to be working together right now. I don't understand. It makes no sense to me that Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten Conference, wouldn't communicate with his peers. Like, I don't understand, Teddy. These people are supposed to be working together right now.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I wonder, there's no benefit in them going in there and doing this alone and coming up with this voting, however they came to the decision, and springing it on the rest of college football. Before that meeting happened, the thought going into it and what most people were reporting is that Big Ten's having meetings right now. They're expected over the next couple of days to discuss, the upcoming season and maybe make a decision over non-conference games. Well, most people didn't expect that was going to come out for several days, if not like into this coming week. So they come out and it gets reported that they're about to announce that they're not playing non-conference games. I wonder if the original thought was, well, we've come to this agreement, we're not going to announce it till later, but there was a leak or something, and people found out and it started pouring out. And that's the only thing I can think of, because there's no benefit, at least that I can think of, that I can find, of just going rogue. And even if you've come to the decision, not at least allowing all the other conferences to prepare themselves as to this is how the Big Ten is gonna go throughout the season.
Yeah, I saw some people saying, well, maybe they did it to force everyone else's hand. And I was like, what? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, because, I mean, we're all living in this crazy time right now, right? And we're all working together to try to make not just college football happen, but just to make a lot of things in life run smoothly. And we've talked over and over and over about the financial importance of college football. And for Oregon to find out that Ohio State is not coming to Autzen Stadium, for them to find out on Twitter, that doesn't seem right to me. I mean, it just doesn't. It didn't sit well with me. And now when they came out and announced it, there's basically 5 big-time games that are getting eliminated. And that's Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Washington, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, which was supposed to be at Lambeau. That would have been sick. Penn State, Virginia Tech, and Miami, Michigan State. Those are essentially the 5 big-time games that were eliminated when the Big Ten came out and said that they're not going to play non-conference games. But I need more of an explanation. I really do, because these people have been working together trying to get these protocols in place to get the kids back on campus. They're sharing best practices with each other. There's been constant communication. I mean, I've talked to Bob Bowlesby about it numerous times, where he's saying, yeah, I'm talking it. We are on these conference calls all the time together, trying to figure this thing out. And for this to just say, for the Big Ten to just come out and say, hey, this is what we're doing, the rest of you guys can kick rocks. I
guess there's another thing that you don't know. Like, the Big Ten may have been wanting to make this announcement for quite a while, and
the other commissioners maybe were.
Everyone is like, no, we don't. Let's wait. This is, let's give it time. And finally, they're like, no, this is what we're going to do this because we need to figure out a plan as to how we're going to have our season roll.
Now, if that's the case, I retract my entire statement over the last couple of minutes, because if that's the case, then the Big Ten did the right thing.
You just don't know. I mean,
right.
You don't know. My guess is that everyone was shocked that they announced it, but my guess is they're probably not shocked that was their decision, because my guess would be that the Big Ten has probably been hinting this for quite some time, and not that they just all got in a room today and was like, hey, let's just not play non-conference games. That'll be cool. And then just fire it out there. So I don't know. There's
got to be some more details come out about this whole thing, right? There's going to be a tell-all book.
It's this is not we're talking about college football, so I don't know that there necessarily needs to be any high level like secret meetings. Like I think transparency about what's going on right now is probably good for everyone, but it doesn't seem like that's going on with some of the different conferences that are acting alone.
We talk about it all the time, but just another perfect example of where if there was one person that all of these commissioners had to communicate with and things were a little more organized and the lines of communication were a little more open, it would make a lot of sense. A lot of sense. Now, it's never going to come to that because why would the commissioners give up power? That wouldn't make sense. They're never going to go for that. But just another frustrating example of the disorganized structure of the leadership in college football.
Can I give you one hope?
Yes, please. Give me, once again, slap me in the face with all the hope.
Now, imagine a scenario in which the ACC is not going to play non-conference games, the Pac-12 is not going to play non-conference games, and the Big Ten is not going to play non-conference games. That's pretty, I mean, it's not like guaranteed at this point, but it looks pretty strong. Big 12 has not said that, and the SEC has not said that. Well, can you imagine a scenario where, Alabama had a game with the Pac-12? I'm sure. Let's see. Was there any SEC games with the Big Ten? There's a bunch of these. The ACC, SEC. There's a bunch of like rivalry crossovers,
right,
and they want to play those. But imagine a scenario where the Big 12 and the SEC are the only two schools that are playing non-conference, and it's like, okay, since it's us two, let's have a little SEC Big 12 crossover.
Challenge.
Little challenge.
They already do it in basketball. Here. Why not?
There you go. I mean, I think one of the big problems with non-conference games is everyone's really worried about not finishing football. Things may not go, like the revenue situation is going to be bad. So no one's really excited about paying a team $1.5 million to come to town whenever you may not have fans in the stadium. I mean, the only reason you pay for those games is so you can make your gate, sell your beers, sell your popcorn.
All the fans go home happy.
Yeah, to generate some revenue. Well, since that revenue is not going to be there, if you're not going to have fans in place, no one's excited about stroking a big check for like a scrimmage, essentially. So it's like, if that's going to happen, let's go ahead and let's get some real football games going.
Yeah, and the Pac-12 announced it's going to do the same thing as the Big Ten. Larry Scott, the commissioner of the Pac-12, who happened to test positive for COVID-19 in the last couple of days, no big deal, said that they're delaying the start of football season, citing the health and safety of the players, and it gives them the most flexibility with scheduling. So no non-conference games for our friends out on the West Coast. And it sounds like they're especially worried about USC and UCLA being able to start the season on time. And there were some big games eliminated, a few of them, Bama, USC, BYU, Utah, Notre Dame, USC, Oklahoma State, Oregon State, TCU, Cal, Texas Tech, Arizona. Who really cares about that one? But I think that I always thought that the Pac-12 was going to be the first one, right? Because you looked out there and they just kind of marched to the beat of a different drum. And it seemed like their coronavirus situation was in some different spots at different times than kind of the rest of the country. So I always thought they would be the first. And I certainly didn't think the Big Ten would be the first, but I was not surprised at all, Teddy, that they, followed the Big Ten and saying, hey, yep, no non-conference games.
Yeah. It's not surprising, but it's got to be frustrating. The Pac-12 has been really the forgotten conference, right? The revenue's been down. They play all these games to where, everyone's already drunk and passed out from the college football they've been watching all day.
Guilty.
It has not been a good run for the Pac-12. Well, You had a couple USC who, a lot of people are very down on, and rightfully so, but they got a good young quarterback. They've got a solid football team. No, I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that they're going to beat Alabama, or Notre Dame, which are two college football playoff contenders, but those are your chances to get back on the map. Oregon against Ohio State. I favor Ohio State in that game, but you never know. This is college football.
A lot of talent there at Oregon.
Oregon's played well recently. That's their chance to say that we're back and we've arrived. And you miss those opportunities because no one's going to watch the rest of the Pac-12 games. I'm sorry. That's just how it goes. No one watches them. These were opportunities where you get a big chunk of the eyes across the country to see what the Pac-12 is all about.
Yeah. So I just don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they decide how many games the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are going to play, just conference games. Like, is it going to be 9? Is it going to be 10? I'm kind of interested to see how many games they try to get in. But, yeah, I don't think this helps. And we saw the revenues, per school come out this week, and it's clear that although the Pac-12, they're still bringing in some money, that they are falling behind everywhere else. So not good for the Pac-12 now. The other 3 Power 5 conferences, the ACC Commissioner John Swofford said, he put out a statement, said they will make a decision in late July. Bob Bowlesby said it's too early for the Big 12 to make a decision, and they are anticipating making a decision in late July or early August. And then we heard from Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner. And this may have been the most alarming thing of all for me, because Greg Sankey, if you pay attention normally to what he says publicly, he is very measured in what he says, always. And he's a guy that is very aware that his words carry significant weight because he's the leader of the most important football conference in the country. It's just what it is. So I know that we've been saying that the SEC would be the ones that would play a season that would look as close to normal as possible, right? And we joke about it just means more and all that stuff, blah, but it is very important down there in the South. And he was asked about his concern for the season, and his answer was, quote, high to very high. And then he added, quote, we are running out of time to correct and get things right. I do not like hearing that. I don't like hearing that at all, because I've always taken what Greg Sankey says very seriously. And he said their deadline is also going to be late July, but him being so, I don't want to say pessimistic, but maybe it's just realistic, but him being so skeptical about the season, Ted, it got me a little worried. I'm not going to lie, man.
Well, it is concerning, high to very high. And, Gene Smith at Ohio State was kind of the same thing. He's like,
oh, God.
He's like, I've been optimistic all along, but if you were to ask me now, he's like, I don't know. So
I don't know, guys.
So it's not looking good. And my feeling for quite a while now has been that I thought all along that we were going to be playing college football in the fall. It's like, yeah, we're going to. The risk to the players is minimal. The amount of damage that would occur to all these athletic programs and just colleges in general, forget the athletic programs, if they don't play, will be catastrophic. But I figured at some point that they would, start treating it differently, and they still aren't. And I don't know that they can with the position that they're in, politically, with the schools, with the way college football is viewed at times. So, it's one of those things. And someone had told me pretty recently that someone got it into the ear of all the athletic directors that there was going to be a vaccine by late fall or very early 2021. And, I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Dr. Fauci.
I don't know anything about that, but it helps them out tremendously if there's a vaccine, because as soon as there's a vaccine, it's like, here we go, right? But until
stadiums are full, baby. We're making the gate.
And until that point,
parking's double.
It's hard for them to really make any move at all. Even though all of the data says that, the threat to these players and that demographic is statistically insignificant, they just, until there's a vaccine, I mean, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? So I don't know. I mean, that's a lot to put on the line for a vaccine. That would be, I think the fastest a vaccine's ever started from beginning to implementation is 5 years. So
what could go wrong?
Yeah. I think now they're going, this would be like 9 months or 8 or 9 months. So, I mean, that's a lot to hope on moving your season to the spring.
We are all at the mercy of the nerds. This is why you should be nice to the nerds when you're growing up, because you never know when you're going to need them. And football depends. It may depend on these smart little scientists and infectious disease specialists figuring this shit out.
So you're telling me the jocks couldn't figure it out on their own this time?
Not so much. Not so much. So Godspeed to all the nerds out there. Please help. Please save football season. Please. Now, one more piece of interesting National College Football news, Ted. The Football Oversight Committee made an interesting recommendation, and they recommended that teams be allowed to count 2 wins versus FCS teams toward bowl eligibility this season. So normally you can only count 1 win over an FCS team towards your bowl eligibility, towards your 6 wins. This is admirable, I guess. I think it's trying to encourage teams to find FCS teams to play. And that way FCS teams, and we've talked about this a lot, but that way these FCS teams could get money to get their asses beat, but then they would be able to fund their athletic departments, right? Those buy games, B-U-Y, not B-Y-E, but isn't it crazy to think about bowl eligibility right now? That's where I was reading the statement. I was like, oh, well, that's good. Yeah, that makes sense. And I was like, wait, are there even going to be bowl games? Like, what are we talking about? And I know the college football playoff came out and said, hey, we're still going to pick 4. Our criteria is not changing. I was like, oh, okay, that's fun. But when I was thinking about bowl games, I was just like, what is it? Does it even make sense to talk about bowl games right now?
No. Here's what I think is, it's fascinating, and it's hilarious at the same time. There's a lot of coaches out there and a lot of programs that hide behind these 3 give me non-conference games, right? And oh yeah, they got to win. They've winning record for the last 10 years, bowl eligible. Like, you take Texas, for example. Texas was 8-5 last year, 8-5, but they were 5-4 in the Big 12, 5-4 in the Big 12, barely had a winning record.
That's not good.
So, like, all of a sudden you take away 3 guaranteed wins for non-conference teams, like those little, we're going to check it out.
You're telling me that you don't think, and Texas is scheduled to go to Baton Rouge. So I really want to see that game. So come on, figure it out, Big 12, SEC, challenge. So you're saying maybe Texas wouldn't love playing a couple more SEC teams? I don't know who would, but if there's a year for a bunch of fun, competitive, big headline games, make it happen this year, right?
No, I mean, I think that is all great. I guess what I'm saying is a lot of coaches, shoot for that bowl eligibility, that winning record deal to get those paychecks, but you all of a sudden take that away and you can look really bad really quickly. That 7-5 or 6-6, drops down to 3-6 really quickly.
Well,
that's a different look.
I mean, hypothetically, if you're in the Big 12 and you're only playing 9 games, say they go to conference only. Yeah, 4-5 doesn't look very good. 7-5 looks a whole lot better than 4-5. So
that's right.
Yeah, but I guess kudos to the Football Oversight Committee for trying to help out our friends in the FCS. I think that's what they were trying to do.
I mean, Kansas is like, hell yeah, we can go to a bowl game, man. We got to schedule the 3 worst FCS teams, and maybe we can beat them. But that's 6 wins, baby. That's bowl eligible.
Let's do it. All right, Ted, let's move on to our segments. And since it's Monday, you're going to get a little football guys talking basketball, some FGTB. And I listened to JJ Redick's podcast, and I watched Matisse Thybulle from the 76ers, who started a YouTube page. He put out a video. He's documenting the whole NBA bubble thing. It was pretty cool. But between Redick's podcast and Thybulle's video, you were kind of able to piece together what life is like in the NBA bubble, or at least how you get into the NBA bubble. And basically what happens is they get to the hotel there in Orlando, and they go straight to a room where NBA COO Mark Tatum talks to them about the protocols, kind of the schedule for the next couple of days. Then they get tested for the coronavirus. Now they give them this armband that is their key to essentially everything. So it gets them into their hotel room. It gets them into the hospitality things. It opens all the doors that are programmed with it around the hotel. So they basically just have this bracelet. And if anyone's ever been to Disney or like a cruise, you know what I'm talking about. But they go from getting that, so they go straight to their rooms, and then they just have to sit in there for 36 hours straight. They can't leave. And the NBA delivers them like packaged food to their door. There's snacks and all kinds of stuff in the room. You can see it in Thybulle's YouTube video. But once they clear that, then they're free to roam around their hotel a little. But everywhere they go, other than their rooms and practice, they have to wear masks. So I know it doesn't sound ideal, but the NBA is doing a great job and that's what JJ Redick was saying on his podcast, that they're doing a great job of being strict, but also, providing these guys with a lot of things. I mean, you can see several guys have posted their social medias, and there's been some controversy about the hotel rooms and all that stuff. Who really cares? But guys are posting about the food and the hospitality room for the players. Look, the players' lounge looks pretty sweet. It kind of just reminds me of going to a bowl game, Teddy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They've got some amenities there, and it's all cool right now. We'll see what happens once they all start getting competitive and stuff. But I mean, the funny thing that I think about is, we've seen a lot of these NBA games where something happens on the floor. Someone takes an elbow, it gets physical. After the game, they got to separate them from the 2 locker rooms in the back. Well, now they're all going to go home to the same hotel, right? So, I mean, it's probably nothing bad is going to happen, but I do think it's fascinating to have all of the guys right there, because everything's been nice and cordial as of right now, but there's a lot of beef in the NBA across different teams, and there's a lot of stuff there.
$1 billion idea right here. We can find the sponsors, guarantee it. You just say a couple guys, they get in a scuffle, right, in a game. There's plenty of ballrooms. They're not using all of them, right? You set up an octagon. You let those 2 guys, I don't know one round, 5 minutes. You have some of the players film it, and you put it on YouTube, and you get sponsors for it, or maybe you sell it on pay-per-view. I don't really know how all that stuff works. and you just let these NBA guys just fight each other. They finally get to settle their beef. You know how they always act all tough, like, oh, I'll kill you, bro, I'll kill you. Well, now we get to see who the tough guys really are.
All they have to do is just like pan the cameras over a little bit, and there's the octagon. It's right there. Just have it right there on the floor.
Lounge.
Yes, well, just do it during the game. I mean, if you got beef, here we go. Right
over there hockey.
To the Thunderdome. Whoever makes it out of the octagon gets to continue in the game.
This Thunderdome is brought to you by Will and Wiley, Bishop McGinnis High School. Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs. We've got plenty of sponsors that would want to sponsor that, right?
I love it. That's perfect.
I'd pay good money to watch some NBA guys throw down, because it would just be absolutely entertaining. Because if there's one thing that would be an absolute certainty in those fights, it's that no punches would be landed, because those NBA guys can never punch each other in the face for some reason.
No, they are the best ever at, starting a fight and timing it up perfectly to where nothing happens, but everyone gets there just in time to break it all up. It's really amazing.
Isn't it weird how that works?
I think is crazy is 36 hours of isolation, which, I guess that's 2 12-hour sleeps, and I guess you can watch, like, I don't know, the Godfather trilogy or something in there in between, but 36 hours is a long time to just
you can get all the Harry Potters in.
I mean, it's time to catch up on a couple of seasons of whatever you've been missing, but that's a long time, dude.
Yeah, but I think the NBA, they're really trying to make it work. They're really trying to make it work. And little update about the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are in the bubble. Now, you've seen some videos, I'm sure, of Darius Bazley and Chris Paul going at it in cornhole, which led to a heated debate about whether people call it cornhole or bags. I'm fine with either of them. I call it cornhole. Doesn't matter to me if you call it bags. I'll beat your ass in it anyways.
The pros call it cornhole, so I'm going to call it cornhole.
That's what they call it on ESPN.
That's right. And I've actually been watching a lot of that recently.
Oh, no.
So.
Oh, no. But we've seen some of these guys out fishing, right? Now it sounds like Gallinari and Steven Adams may start some sort of guitar duo, which would be, I can only imagine how entertaining that would be. Sign me up for that first EP. And the Thunder practiced on Friday and Sunday, and it sounds like things are going well, because they're able to do these weird virtual press conferences or, media availabilities after the practices. And so far, the big takeaway, Ted, has to be Andre Robertson. He's doing everything. And, man, I don't really know how to react or what to think, because, and I know it's stupid, but I'm starting to get excited that he's going to come back. I don't really know what to think. The guy hasn't played in 2.5 years. 2.5 years. But Sunday night, Billy Donovan said, if Andre Robertson's available, then he's going to play him. And I'm over here going, what? Out of nowhere. Like, what is happening? I had been talking about Andre Robertson returning in the NBA bubble kind of like as a joke, right? I'd just been like having fun with it. I'm not sure I ever thought it would actually happen, but it seems to be trending that direction, Ted.
Yeah. I don't know what to think. I don't know how much basketball he's been able to get in. I mean, the key to Andre Robertson whenever he was healthy was fantastic athleticism, great length. He could defend multiple positions, was a very savvy defender. He could defend guys down low, could defend guys great out on the perimeter, on-ball guy, get him past. I mean, he could do all those things because of his athleticism. Where he's at athletically and confidence-wise on some of those, on that injury, that knee, I don't know where he is. But if he's as athletic and as explosive as he was before, he hasn't developed a jump shot over the last 2.5 years. I'll guarantee you that. But if he can defend,
he can shoot a set shot, it's fine. He doesn't have to jump. It's fine.
If he could defend like he could pre-injury, then you got to play him. You know, you got to pay him.
Yeah,
and play him.
And it was interesting because Billy Donovan also said that Dort looks stronger, and I was like, oh, mama, let's go. Has our man Lou Dort been hitting the weights in quarantine?
Which, by the way, you know, I had joked and laughed that Zion was going to come back at like 400 pounds after, you know, the extended quarantine. Did you see him? Dude is ripped.
Looks still, I still think he has a ways to go, but there's no doubt that his body has improved during this quarantine. I don't know if it was diet, changed the way he's working out, what he's been doing, but if he keeps doing it, and I want him to keep doing it because I want to watch that guy play for, 15 years. We all do, because he's just so much fun to watch. He's so entertaining. It seems like someone got to him and got him on the right path, right?
He got fat shamed into turning into an even better athlete. Think about that, huh? Pretty good. Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. All right, Ted, let's move on to our winners and losers of the weekend. And those are brought to you by Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs. They'll help you execute a realistic and achievable weight loss plan designed for you and only you. They've got all kinds of treatments for men and women. Their licensed and trained experts combine diet and exercise with hormone therapies to maximize your results. If you're struggling with low libido or low energy, Advanced Weight Loss Clinic of Sand Springs can help with that too. They also offer Botox and fillers. To get on the path to losing weight, call 918-241-LOSE or visit their Facebook page. If you mention the podcast, you will get a free fat burner injection. Free fat burner injection. I wonder if that's what Zion did.
Yeah, no doubt. If that's what I keep saying this, that I want one of those fat burner injections, but I actually need to go get one. I need to get something. Let's get going.
Call. I mean, the number is right there. 918-241-LOSE. This ad turned into a lot longer. I'm going to invoice them for double. Just kidding, guys.
So are we going on to winners and losers now?
Give us your winner of the weekend, Ted.
So my winner, whenever you sent the rundown, I was going through the rundown and it caught my eye. You said when you were talking about Andre Robertson, the guy hasn't played in 2.5 years. And I got to thinking, he's got a pretty big contract. So this Andre Robertson, who is he's a good basketball player. He's an excellent defender, but
tremendous length.
He's
shoot.
When it comes to the
he's
NBA,
a Sam Presti wing.
He's kind of just a guy, I mean, he's got something that he's really good at and several things that he's not very good at. But Andre Robertson has made right around $30 million while not even playing a game. And to think about like some of these contracts we've seen in basketball, like when we were watching The Last Dance and how little Scottie Pippen made for his entire career until late, and how little Michael Jordan made until late. It's just, I got to call him a winner. To be able to sit and rehab and collect $30 million of guaranteed money is the greatest thing I could ever imagine in all of sports.
Would you be, because I'm assuming, and this has been my theory for a while, that he just retore his patellar tendon at some point. That's my theory. I don't know that to be a fact. Why he was rehabbing, because, I mean, 2.5 years, you talk about a setback. That's certainly a setback.
Because he was close, and then they were talking about him being close, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, he's not going to play.
Yeah. So I think something happened. I do. But would you just sign up for like constant knee pain for 2.5 years for $30 million? Because I'm telling you right now, sign me up for that. No hesitation. Give me the excruciating knee pain for the 2.5 years. I'm fine. I'll be fine. I'll figure it out for $30 million.
I'm sitting here thinking if for $30 million, I'd let you take an axe to my lower leg. Okay. It's like,
just take the leg. It's fine. It's $30 million.
I'll figure something out. But no, I mean, I'm not mad at Andre Robertson. I'm just saying that he is an absolute winner to think that in this day and age, you can be a middle-of-the-road NBA player and make $30 million while sitting on the bench on the sideline rehabbing is just like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
He's a winner.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good for him. And he was a very effective defender when he was healthy. So we should probably mention that. But Ted, who you have as your loser of the weekend?
The loser is any non-Power 5 football team. You know, we were discussing on here like, oh, the Big Ten, you know, they threw this, they're not going to play non-conference games out there. And, you know, they should have talked to people, and, you know, the Big 12 SEC still want to play. And, you know, there's some anxiety going on there. But can you imagine if you were a non-Power 5 athletic director and you opened up your Twitter machine on, what was that, Thursday afternoon, and it's like, no, okay, we've already budgeted all of this money that we're going to make for these non-conference games into our athletic. That's how we pay our coaches. That's how I can't even imagine what they're going through right now.
Okay. Do you think, and once again, you hope that everyone works together, everyone does the right thing. Do you think that maybe some programs would be willing to, I don't know if loan is the right word, but front some of these
till the spring? If they
till the spring, or even because we already saw what happened at Stanford, right? Mm-hmm. With the 11 programs just being axed. I mean, what's going to happen to group of 5 athletic programs if they don't get this money from these non-conference games? I just wonder, like, can they give it what's the best way? In advance? I don't know.
I don't even know what those contracts say. Like, what guarantees are built in if the game is canceled for whatever reason, because we've seen it before where games are canceled due to weather and stuff like that. And I don't know if there's
that's a really good point. Yeah.
So it's rare, but you know, you would think that if you've got $1 million contract, there has to be some type of verbiage in there as if for what happens if the game's not played. So, like, I don't know, but man, that's a lot of money. That's how these teams fund their programs. So there's got to be a lot of anxiety. And, you know, that's part of why this decision was made pretty quickly by the Big Ten is, you know, there may be a window to get out of some of these contracts because they're worried about themselves. Like the outlook doesn't look good for anyone financially, much less the non-Power 5 schools. So like no one's going to be too thrilled about forking over, you know, $1.5 million for a football game whenever they can't even sell tickets to it. So, I mean, it's going to be tough for those non-Power 5 schools.
Yeah. Sure. And a big part of me also wonders, like, because they schedule so long out, right? Will some of these Power 5 programs try to take care of these teams where they've canceled these games, try to fit them in the next couple of years, try to make it up to them, something like that. Sorry.
If we get back on a normal schedule, you guys can come in and we'll pound you for a spring football game.
Don't hate that. Don't hate that idea at all.
We need some blocking dummies for the spring football game.
All right, Ted, my winner of the weekend, Woj. And I know some of you are confused, so let me explain. For those of you that don't know, Woj got an email from a Missouri Senator, Josh Hawley. And the email essentially criticizes the list of messages that NBA players could put on the back of their jerseys. Senator Hawley wanted NBA players to be able to criticize China and support cops and the military on their jerseys, which I don't think many players would have problems with, but the players have made it clear that the message they are trying to get across in this bubble is the Black Lives Matter message. Like it's very well established. So knowing that, Woj responded to this email with a simple 2-word response. And that was, quote, "fuck you." Now, Woj has since issued an apology. He has been suspended by ESPN. Supposedly, it's a 2-week suspension without pay, and he'll be back for the NBA bubble coverage. But he's a winner for me. It sounds like he may be a loser for some, but he's a winner for me because, Ted, I am not going to lie. When I see Woj, I immediately think that guy is an absolute dweeb. That's when I look at him, I'm like, hey, he's got a great job. He does an amazing job. He is unbelievable at his job. But that is one dweeby dude. And the fact that he is out here just firing off FUs to elected officials from his iPhone, nonetheless, that was the best part. It said sent from my iPhone underneath the FU. That was the best part. That made me realize that this man is an absolute savage, Teddy. And even he got backed up by LeBron James on Sunday. LeBron even tweeted #FreeWoj.
There's a couple of things here. Number one, do you think there's some built-up frustration for Woj after getting scooped on the whole bubble thing?
When Shams was giving us all the details about everything and Woj was just sitting in silence.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some built-up frustration from that, and there was a boiling over point.
And there was some built-up frustration from the China situation too, because if you go back to Daryl Morey's statement, Woj liked the tweet. Remember the whole Hong Kong thing that led to everyone in the NBA losing a bunch of money, and it's going to affect the salary cap next year, and we've just kind of forgotten that because of the whole pandemic thing. Woj was like super popular in China. He had like a show or something that ended up getting like pulled for it. Mm-hmm. So he lost a bunch of money too on this thing by just liking a tweet. So he clearly feels a certain type of way about this situation.
Well, and that's what's interesting is that, what Holly was going for and the chord he was wanting to strike was he took the bait. I mean, right. It's like, the hypocrisy of all this stuff. Yet whenever one of your own tweets out the Hong Kong deal, Morey, he gets absolutely drugged through the ringer by the entire league, and Woj jumped on it. It had to be one of those things where as soon as you hit send, it's like, no.
Or I think it was probably the opposite. He hit send and it was just like, hell yeah.
What about that?
Yeah. Take that, Senator. I just thought it was so damn funny, dude. I was like, I did not know Woj had that in him. How about that? I don't know. It made me really happy for some reason. And the only way, Ted, that it could have been better is if he would have tweeted out sources. Woj has been suspended for 2 weeks by ESPN. Like that's the only way it could have been better.
I can confirm that.
Can confirm. Can confirm. Adrian Wojnarowski has been suspended for 2 weeks. All right, my loser of the weekend, Rajon Rondo. Now, once again, this is a guy, and okay, I've heard some people say that the picture is fake. Everything I've seen seems to like the picture that he posted to the hotel room is real. So I'm going like it's real. Like that's why he's going to be my loser of the weekend. He puts a picture of his hotel room at the Grand Destino or whatever it's called there in Orlando. He puts a picture out of his hotel room and it's got a middle finger emoji and it says Motel 6 Hun. And Ted, it's a pretty nice hotel room. I'm not going to lie. It looks like if I walked in there, and I've stayed in some good hotels, played in the National Football League, traveled a bit, stayed in some nice hotels. I saw it and I was like, it's not that bad. Now,
No, not for, I mean, I know if you're staying somewhere for a really long time, you're hoping for something a little bit nicer, but I mean, that's your standard single king, nicer type of hotel room.
And Rajon Rondo's made $100 million, over $100 million playing basketball. And he's earned that money. Don't get me wrong. He's earned that money. But does he not realize what's going on in this country right now? That's where you got to go, dude, read the room, because there's millions of people in this country that have lost their jobs or that are working paycheck to paycheck. They don't know where or how they're going to be able to put food on their tables this week. And you're out here putting a picture out, basically clowning this pretty decent hotel room. The one thing that was obvious is that Rondo has never stayed in Motel 6 ever.
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I've stayed at a Motel 6 one time. I was driving from Oklahoma to Jacksonville, and I like to, whenever I'm driving a long distance like that, I like to leave in the evening and drive through the night where there's no traffic and I can just, I just blow and go.
You're a psycho.
Well,
but that's actually a pretty good idea.
Whenever I was going to Jacksonville, I was driving to Tampa. Anyways, I'm like in the panhandle of Florida, and I start getting like really tired. So I'm like, I'm going to pull off and just lay down for a couple of hours, close my eyes for a couple of hours, and then get up and start driving again. So next exit, there's a Motel 6. Whip in there, pay whatever. I don't even know what the rate is.
$39.95.
Yeah, something incredibly cheap. I take a couple of things, park my car, take a couple of things into the room, lay down on the bed. I was like, and I'm just telling you, it was horrible. Okay, it was horrible. I lay down on the bed. I'm exhausted, by the way. I've been driving for like 16 hours. I lay down, lay there for like 5 minutes, and was like, nope. I get up, grab my stuff, get in the car, and start driving again. I felt like, I was like, man, I'm going to get bed bugs. I'm like nervous that stuff's like crawling on me. It's like the most uncomfortable bed I've ever laid on in my whole entire life. It was like, nah, all right. I'd rather sleep in the car.
So
I'm out of here.
I was going to send out some more sponsorship inquiries this week, because we got a couple sponsorship spots left. I'm going to go ahead and take Motel 6 off the list.
I'm not your guy. Motel 6, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm not your guy.
Yep. That's going to be a no for the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman.
Anything worth paying for, it's a decent hotel room and a decent bed to sleep in, right?
Agreed. And good tires and good shoes. Things that connect you to the ground is what someone told me once. Hey, never go cheap on your mattress. Never go cheap on your shoes. Never go cheap on your tires.
Love
Things that connect you to the ground. I was like, all right. Yeah, sure. All right, Ted, let's move on to everyone's favorite segment, and that is Keepin It Local, where we highlight what's going on in the great state of Oklahoma. Now, this story, I know a lot of people are worried about high school football, high school athletics in general here in the state of Oklahoma. So wanted to give you guys an update in this version of Keepin It Local. Cameron Jordan from the Oklahoma gave us an update in an article where he talked to some people from the OSSAA, and OSSAA Executive Director David Jackson said that the plan right now is to play high school football in the state of Oklahoma and to play all fall sports in the coming months. But then there was a but. And it seems like with everything right now, there is a big but. But moving those activities to the spring remains an option. So right now, the OSSAA is spending a ton of time working on contingency plans. If school districts decide that they can't play, or if they stop playing at some point due to the coronavirus, But right now, as things stand, everything is still planned to happen on schedule. So I thought that was very interesting. Now it's optimistic. It brought me joy. Because there's nothing better than high school football. And some sports, like I think it's softball, baseball, cross country, maybe even volleyball also, they're starting practice this week. And football is scheduled to start practice on August 10th. So, Teddy, this got me a little fired up for these high school kids because I do think that is when athletics is the most fun, the most enjoyable, maybe even the most meaningful. And I just hope these kids get to participate. I'm hoping for the best. Now, David Jackson, he said all the right things and it seemed optimistic. Now, to me, maybe it's a little unrealistic, but all we can do right now is hope for the best for high school athletics in the state of Oklahoma, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. Football is really actually, I think basketball is worse than football, but football happens to be probably the worst sport for the current situation because you're talking about a big number of people. You're talking about close contact for an extended period of time. And that's every single day. It's not once every couple of days or once a week. That's how you have to practice. That's how you have to travel. I mean, so you've got a big group of people that are always in each other's space. Like softball, baseball, cross country, that stuff, right? I can't find any reason high school wise why any of those sports should not take place. Football, okay, I get it. Now, the interesting thing to me about moving football to the spring is you got a chance to really impact a lot of other high school sports whenever you do that. You can't really, like, you can play.
Yeah, because of the field. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, not only the field, but the field, first of all, but also, if like 3A down, if football's playing, like there ain't going to be anyone left for basketball and baseball and all these other sports. I mean,
yeah, the multi-sport athletes. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's
the bigger schools.
That's a really good point.
There's a lot of more single sport athletes, but the smaller ones, man, just like your basketball team is your
Dude,
skill position guys from the football team.
I mean, I hadn't even thought of that when it came to the spring. You would assume that hopefully they would stagger football and basketball a little bit if it gets pushed to the spring, because for me, just going back to being a high school athlete, like we'd always, play in the playoffs in football, and we went to the state championship 3 years in a row, and we'd always miss the first couple basketball games, right? So yeah, I hadn't even thought that, like, if you're playing them at the same time, usually some of your really good football players, like for instance, me and our quarterback, Ryan Randolph and McGinnis, we were both starters on the basketball team.
Yeah.
So,
and most guys,
what is that guy? What do those guys do?
I mean, it's you're either your football, like one or the other is really going to struggle. I'll give you another thing. We didn't talk about this with the colleges moving it to the spring, but so if you play spring football, then you're going to start training camp when school starts. So or maybe even before. We're talking about, like, in high school, January, like they don't have indoor facilities in high school. Most of them don't. You're talking about like January training camp.
Just freezing their asses off.
The only thing worse than being in the heat all day is being in the freezing cold all day.
But give me 100 degrees every time over 25.
Doubt.
Every single time.
Doubt. That would be horrible. Because if you're going to spring season, you've got to start training camp right away in January, right?
You would assume so.
I mean, I don't know.
It'd be interesting now we're still hoping for the best here for high school football in Oklahoma. If they have to push it to the spring, when does it start? Like, is it starting in February? Is it starting in March? Like, do they start it after spring break? Do they try to play the entire season before spring break? I don't know.
It's like, I mean, I don't know how you would do it, like, because the bowl season is usually like December, so that's like our 4th month, and it's kind of my guess is you wouldn't have that 3 weeks off like you do in the fall season. So you probably get the thing hammered out in 3.5 months. So you got to have January for training camp, February, March, April, and then right there towards the end of school. I mean, you're talking about finals though.
Yeah, I don't
through
know.
May.
I don't know. Hey, one thing about it, not my problem. Not my problem. And on that note, episode 24 in the books, Ted. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Thursday morning. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 2 to 6 on Sports Talk 1400. And you can hear me on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great week. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening, and do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.